All right, we're going to talk about this Twin Falls, Idaho In-N-Out Burger shooting, and we're going to really heavily discuss the 5 general responses here: alert, run, hide, fight, and aid, because there's big tips for each one of these. There's a lot of things done well here, a lot of bravery. There's some tactical things not done too well that could have been done better, and there's a lot of in-betweens. But man, this is a chaotic event, and it could have gotten a lot worse than it was. We'll take luck when we can get it. It's unfortunate that there were victims in this case. But there's a lot to learn from it. Let's go forward and watch it.
The gunman arrives at the drive-thru in a white Honda Civic. When he reaches the payment window, the gunman shoots the first victim, Ashley Garibay, who later succumbed to her injuries at the hospital. The gunman proceeds in the drive-thru, parking his car.
Now, if you have my awareness guide, you'll see that one of the first things I discuss in there is that the assessment of a threat can start with the vehicle, what the vehicle looks like, how they park it, where they park it, and what they do when they exit or come to or go from the vehicle.
He then shoots the second victim.
So right now, the information is only that there were 2 people killed other than the gunman, and they were killed in the first few seconds of this. And honestly, what do you expect them to do? The girl comes to the counter to take an order or serve food, and the other person is just right around the corner, probably at best heard some gunshots, and still is in that moment where he has no idea what's really going on. He can't even orient to what's happening, and then that person becomes a victim too. Now we're going to see this first off-duty officer. We hadn't heard much about him until we see this video now. And I really want to talk to you about temp state and why I keep telling you it's important. So temp state is tactical position, emotions, mental, and physical posture as you approach a scene. So if you're approaching something that's dangerous, you want to adjust your temp state so you're ready for that danger. And my wife watched this video, and the first thing she said when she saw the officer come around the corner unprepared is that she said, that doesn't seem like a very good way of doing that. And my wife is 100% right. My wife has a little bit of training. But this officer, and bless him again for the courage, goes forward towards gunfire, and he is in absolutely no position in any of those 5 phases to be ready for the fight. Now, he gets severely wounded. He does recover. I believe he has to do a support hand draw and get his gun in support hand, and then he's ready to fight. But at that point in time, he's wounded enough that he kind of gets taken out of it. But bravery for sure, perseverance for sure, and we're lucky to have people like this. I just want to train them to approach these situations better.
Former Twin Falls police officer and former Idaho State Police trooper Austin James runs towards the incident where he encounters the gunmen and is the 3rd victim shot.
So you can see right there, he added to the casualty count. If he had slowed down, I shouldn't say slow down, if he'd smooth things out, oriented around that corner, had his weapon in the right position, and it might have still been gripped in his holster. I don't suggest you run around with a gun in your hand haphazardly in an active threat situation because you can't be misidentified. But he should have peeked around that corner, been in more of a fighting posture, and be ready to draw that gun and fight. And the suspect here probably gets a lucky shot off and wounds him, but this could have been ended right here with no additional casualties if that officer had maximized his temp state during this brief 2-second window of opportunity that we have here and that I often talk about. You can see here he's sideways, he's moving too fast, he doesn't have his weapon in hand or any way to get to it quickly, and he suffers the results because of it. Now he gets off the X, he prepares to defend himself.
Mr. James retreats and draws his handgun, preparing to engage the gunmen. Due to his severe injury and blood loss, he is pulled back into his vehicle and given aid before going to the hospital.
Okay, so it brings up the point about being able to use your support hand. Nobody's as good with their support hand as they are with a strong hand, but it's something you should practice because you want to be at least comfortable and familiar with doing it. So in the rare case that you may be wounded so bad that you can't use your strong hand to fire and have to use your support hand of the pistol, you should be able to do that with some effectiveness. Your big concern shouldn't be, oh my, I've never held this in my hand before or in my support hand before. You should know that, hey, I've got this. I'm not probably as good with it, but I'm comfortable with this and I know I can defend myself. Also, keep in mind, look at all these people in this channelized area. They know the gunman's in front of them. They've heard the gunfire, and they cluster around this channelized area in these vehicles. And this is blurred down below here because there's people still in these vehicles. They're in the vehicles now. They're trying to get the officer to safety and help him. And that officer is bleeding quite a bit, is very severely wounded. So we always remember our aid and why we want to have trauma kits in our cars. But again, think about the opportunity these people had to flee the scene. And we'll watch them still in this location and get shot at again in a little bit.
The window a second time before his handgun jams, and he returns to his vehicle to retrieve a rifle.
Okay, so the first rule of first aid is make sure the scene is safe. If the scene is not safe, do not go in there and start providing aid. You've got to get that person out of there. I've got my 3 selves again coming to play. First is self-defense. You can defend yourself, fight back, be ready for that attacker to continue to attack you. The +1 rule. They will attack again. They will have another weapon, and there will be another attacker. So keep that in mind. Then the 3 selves: self-defense, self-extract, self-treat. And if they can't do that, and you're going to rush up to the X, you better do it at the right time. Then you better get them off the X in a position of safety before you start treatment. Otherwise, you just added the casualty count. If the gunman just effectively engaged people through a window and engaged them in a spot, you don't want to be in that spot again in case the gunman comes back, which they often do. Now, this is a mess. We actually call this a mob drill when we do our active threat training, where you have to push through a mob of people that are running the opposite direction. You can see this other brave off-duty officer. He's got his weapon out, and he's doing his best not to muzzle anybody, pushing through these potential victims, getting them out of the area and driving towards the threat. And he's adjusting his temp state to be ready for a gunfight.
And off-duty Idaho State Police trooper assists in evacuating patrons and employees while he searches for the threat. With the rifle, the gunman runs back to the drive-thru and fires at nearby patrons before returning to the payment window for a 3rd time.
Now you see somebody hiding here in the corner, and he's trying to deal with them. And you'll see these people inexplicably follow the officer here. You'll see these 2 people come up behind him. Now, if these were your family members, would you want your family members to follow close behind you if you have no idea where the gunman is? Or would you keep them back maybe one area as you push forward into the new area? Look, there's pros and cons to each one, but the last place you want to be is behind someone who's drawing gunfire if you're unarmed. Just a hint from me.
The off-duty ISP trooper and the gunman exchange fire. The gunman retreats before returning to the payment window for a 4th time, firing inside and striking the 4th victim, a Good Samaritan who is attempting to assist the off-duty trooper and render aid to the victim inside.
So great job on that officer, clearing out potential victims, pushing forward, putting pressure on the threat. Hey, and I appreciate the bravery of the 2 people behind him that were trying to come forward to offer aid. Just a little bit of bad positioning and bad sense of timing on that one. Again, I can't beat them up too much about it. You don't know what factors they were considering, but it does bring up some good points for you to think about if you were with your family or other loved ones.
To the food window. Upon seeing no one inside, he moves on.
Getting a kid out of the vehicle here is what this looks like to me.
In the drive-thru, a woman fleeing from inside the restaurant runs alongside the building before encountering the gunman.
Now you've got to ask, if you fled one side of the building and you're not being shot at, why would you start running in a circular pattern around the building? So a bit of a crazy move there, but I will tell you, this woman also has some courage here and displays it very shortly. Now that courage, combined with some knowledge and some good tactics, would be even better.
She takes cover behind his vehicle and picks up the handgun he left behind. Discovering it is jammed, she discards the pistol as she runs away, and the gunman walks towards Blue Lakes Boulevard North. The gunman fires at multiple vehicles that are stopped at a red light, striking.
So yes, this is what we call battlefield recovery in the military. She conducted a battlefield recovery of a weapon system and then didn't know how to correct the malfunction or couldn't correct the malfunction. So I talked about this in the Bondi Beach attack as well. If you pick up that gun off an attacker, it really does pay some dividends to know how to load, fire, reduce the stoppage of a variety of common weapon systems. I would consider that a general big picture life skill if you're concerned about personal protection, as is the ability to run as fast as you can run based upon your limitations as long in your life as you possibly can. That is also what I consider a base level life skill when it comes to personal protection. But good job on this woman, at least gave it a shot. So far we have the gunman, 2 off-duty officers, and a good Samaritan with battlefield recovery all in one scene in a matter of a few minutes here.
A good Samaritan with a handgun engages the gunman who is running north towards the Tesla charging station.
This is Jordan Salinas. You can find his interview. Now, the gunman is near these charging stations here. And I went into Google Maps and I did my best to kind of estimate the distance here. It's just under 100 yards. So imagine with a handgun in the middle of all this chaos, trying to engage a gunman armed with a semi-automatic rifle at nearly 100 yards. The gunman's behind cover. He's got concealment. There's innocent victims in the area, and that engagement is going on. Now, I heard some people, and I'll just call them idiots on the internet, that were trying to make fun of the fact that none of these people were able to hit the gunman. Well, actually, the person who probably had the best chance to hit the gunman was that first off-duty officer. This is a very difficult shot, even under the best of conditions. And I would always ask those people that make fun of people not getting hits in a chaotic, spontaneous gunfight like this, well, what is your accuracy in a similar situation? The truth is they have no idea because they only play Call of Duty or they fantasize about what they do in the real world and could never probably do it. So nearly 100-yard engagement here, handgun versus rifle. I covered a lot of these factors in my previous article and talked about some of the drills I do with school resource officers in order to be able to effectively engage at this distance.
The gunman shoots the 8th victim in the first Tesla. He then shoots the 3rd deceased victim, Dale Schultz, and his passenger, the 10th victim, in the second Tesla.
Okay, so that's new information there. Up to this point, they had said that there were 2 deceased and the gunman who was also deceased for 3. And so apparently the gentleman in the Tesla there. So we have 3 total so far that have passed away from this. That brings up a point here. As far as locations where these active threat events occur, the greatest expanding location area for these is open areas in the open, like parking lots, malls, and multiple areas. People used to believe that these were always confined indoors, and we're learning more and more that that is absolutely not the case. So when we have a situation like this is where lockdowns really can save a lot of lives. So if you run a business, you work at a business, you know someone that works or runs a business, talk to them about a lockdown plan, an alert system, and a way to get that done relatively quickly, because it will absolutely save lives. A lot of times when these gunmen run out of easy victims, they may kill themselves. On top of that, the pressure from arriving police, good Samaritans, etc. on them will sometimes also cause them to commit suicide. So just a quick note on lockdowns here.
The first officer arrives on scene. The off-duty ISP trooper directs him towards the gunmen.
Okay, so another concern here, friendly fire avoidance. If you're at that scene, there's some big rules here. Adjust your posture so you don't look like a threat. Calm yourself down and calm the people around you down, if there are any. Don't catch the officer by surprise. Make it very clear that you are not the suspect and that you are the good guy when you meet with these arriving police officers, because these incidents can end in tragedy. You have to take a breath, get your high brain, and figure out how to do this safely, and then do it safely and effectively when the time comes. The arriving officers don't have good information here. So far, now we have uniform officers, we've got a gunman, and then we have 2 off-duty officers, a lady, and a good Samaritan who have all pulled pistols in one event without a lot of solid information. So keep that in mind. You see these people in the hide, huddle, and hope plan over here. Look, the hiding worked in this case, but if you pick one response, don't just stick with it. Maintain your situational awareness. Be prepared for the next response. So if they're hidden here and the gunman came around a corner, what would be their next response? Look at all the improvised weapons or potential improvised weapons in the area. So grab one of those weapons if you can. Be ready for the next thing. So keep that in mind. When you barricade, you're not done. Improve your position, get improvised weapons, be ready to evacuate, or when a window of opportunity opens up, to use one of the other responses here.
Employees from nearby stores evacuate to the walking trail, believing the gunman is in the front parking lot.
Okay, this is a good time to bring up the choice between barricading or evading or running. If you know the location of the gunman and you can go the opposite direction or get to a safe location right away, just do it. If you don't know the location of the gunman, if you're in a relatively good position, and again, if you work somewhere, you should know your 2 places to barricade from what I call the tactical 2s. It's probably going to be better off to barricade there, especially in a wide open area like this. One of the last things you want to do is find yourself in a channelized area like this sidewalk at the edge of a sheer cliff, not knowing where the gunman is in the open. So, man, just a bad play here. And I know there's a lot of factors to consider, but it's a good concept to think about balancing. Do I barricade or do I run? And if I don't know where the gunman is, then what do I do? And this is a great example of it. It also leads into trying to negotiate with gunmen. I'm not saying never, because it has worked sometimes, just like I don't say never play dead, because it does work sometimes. But keep in mind that you trying to dissuade an active killer out of his task is possibly very unlikely, and a better choice might be to flee. Again, there's a variety of factors here. I couldn't read the attacker's face or his intent. I just know his previous intent was to shoot as many people as he could, and it doesn't seem like he's changed his mind just yet.
The gunman exits the visitor's center and proceeds to the trail where he encounters 2 employees. One bravely engages with the gunman.
Watch up top and how long it takes them to react to seeing the gunman. And honestly, how slow they are to move. Sort of vital seconds lost because they probably didn't have their eyes up and their heads up. They're probably all talking to each other nervously instead of scanning sectors or scanning ahead. Not unexpectedly.
He then runs up the path as officers approach.
Now you see the gunman run off to the left here. Watch the first 4 officers. Every one of them comes by and looks to the right. Now, when it comes to active threat incidents, you have drive, you have signs, and you have stimulus. So drive basically means you have a expected or probable location for the threat, and you want to focus your efforts there, but you can't just completely go recklessly in that direction, because you could just as easily be focused on the wrong area because you don't know exactly where the gunman is, and you can be ambushed. So you have to have some sense of security when you're doing that. And in the military, if you move in a unit, everybody's got their sector of fire. What happens in the real world under stress with people that aren't really well trained is they tend to focus on the same area instead of trusting their partner to have it, and then they look at another sector where the threat may be. So watch how these officers approach here. It's not super tactically sound, but they're pushing forward towards the suspect the best they can. Next, you have signs, and signs might be shell casings, blood, broken things, wounded people. And that means that the suspect has been here and may be near. So you got to be a little cautious there. And then you have stimulus. So stimulus is either visibly seeing the suspect, hearing the suspect shoot, or or something as simple as maybe somebody pointing out the suspect to you. So once you have the stimulus, it's a lot easier to orient exactly on that threat and go towards that threat more dynamically.
And Canyon Edge while receiving reports of a possible second gunman.
There's a lot of movement techniques you can cover here. Yes, you want to push forward towards the threat, but what direction did every one of those officers look? And if that suspect had wanted to, how easily could he popped up from a really good position and made some of those 4 officers additional casualties here? That's why I talk about tactical breathing too. Now they're both covering different areas. They're locked on here a little
Hey,
better.
police! Can you hear me? Okay, you see man? Where'd he go? Nowhere?
Okay. Directed towards the gunman.
He's still about T-train pass. I'll just go that way.
Between the construction site and Petco, an officer locates the gunman off the trail.
Hey!
Okay, so that's the end of the video here. So again, we'll cover the 5 major responses here: alert, run, hide, fight, and aid. And there are big lessons learned for each one of those. Now, I do have a guide called the Threat Proof Family, and I keep it relatively low cost, and it covers those 5 responses. It also heavily covers your mindset and developing a victor-based mindset versus a victim-based mindset, and avoiding the idiot mindset, of course. It tells you how to execute those 5 responses, and it tells you how to perform under pressure. Again, it's relatively inexpensive. It covers it all quickly. It's about a 50-page book, but it's got links to videos in there about how to barricade rooms, how to run, hide, fight, and some other considerations as well. And it literally has a little bit of a training program. You could probably sit down with your family in an hour, go over this video, use that guide, and discuss all the key points. And I guarantee you, you will be significantly more safe than you are if you haven't done that kind of work. All right, go out there, be prepared, and be safe.